Thank you for watching this YouTube video. I'm going to be going over the Templar I was showing off the other night. A couple people were looking at it, and in case they were curious, I want to do a quick rundown of what I do on this character. This character is not made for doing insane amounts of damage. This character is really good at it. It's a fairly tanky build, besides not having a huge energy shield pool. It still is fairly tanky. Main reason being is I end up getting a couple health regen nodes here, and Zealot's Oath, and then I also run Vitality, so he has about a 4.5% regenerate, which applies directly to his energy shield. And it actually scales off your energy shield, so if you have 3,000 energy shield, it's 5% of your energy shield, not your life. So, this node is actually really strong if you're not going Velpack and Ghost Reeve, and I actually almost think it's stronger than that, especially with the Life Leech nerf, so it's a good second option, basically. So, yeah, it's probably one of the more important points on the whole build. If you're going to get anything, get this. The other points that are super important is, just like my other build, I have a bunch of these shield nodes. This ring right here probably isn't as important. You only get about 45% to energy shield, basically, or no, 35%. But I mean, you also get 20 to all res here, all resistance, and then you get a lot of all resistance in this build. And the reason being is because you're going to be wearing a lot of MF gear, and a lot of that gear isn't going to have insane resistance, so you're going to have to make up for that through getting a lot of inventory. So it's kind of nice because you don't have to worry as much about resistances. Eventually, the shield you want to get is a shield that gives you a lot of energy shield, a lot of resist. But the other ring here, this is the one you really need, because it gives you 90% of your shields, energy shield, so it gives you 90% more of that. So it's a really big ring, especially if you plan on scaling mainly off your shield. And then I get this one over here. So already we're already really big, like as far as how much defense we get from our energy shield, from our shield. So I mean, that's why when you saw that I took the shield off and put it back on, it was only like a 350 ES energy shield. He ended up getting like 1,500 energy shield from it, and this is why. So it's just something to think about, and then it lets you equip a lot of different items in your other slots, which lets you up your MF quite a bit. And like I said, this is a low life build too, so that's why getting these life nodes isn't super bad either, because that extra life pool helps you, like if you want to run clarity in your life, it cuts less of it out. The other thing that I think is kind of important is the AoE nodes for your Detonate Dead. And eventually, maybe in a 5-link, I would probably run Detonate Dead with a coin strike, just to make it easier for you to get that last hit in if you plan on actually taking this build into maps. And then the burning damage is probably more important than AoE, so I probably get this first, because this adds a lot to your DPS, including this line too. And one thing to keep in mind while you're doing Dead May Dead, never level the gem. The gem itself never needs to be leveled, because all your damage comes from the percentage damage that never actually scales with the level. It scales with the monster's life. Uh, the thing to remember though is even though you have more people in your group and the monster's life goes up, detonate damage is always based off of one player life. So your damage isn't going to scale with more people either. So, but it's still going to scale pretty well. If you want, you could grab this too. I think eventually I was going to grab it. The only reason I didn't grab it already is because I don't need life. But I mean, the chaos resist might be nice. I mean, if you wanted to, you could get more life, but it'd make it so people needing things have a less of a chance to stun you, because we don't get unwavering stance in this build. Even though we do get iron reflexes, but it would cost a lot of points to get unwavering stance. You could try to go for the amulet, the Onyx amulet that makes it so you can't be stunned. It's an idea. I don't know if it's an idea I would carry out, but then also, since you're going low life, this is a decent node if you actually dislike like the dim vision that you get from going low life, because vision's based off of how much health you have. Until you get this node, then it's based off of how much energy shield you have, and then as your life or energy shield like dissipates, that's when the vision gets a lot darker and you can see less and less around you. So that's one thing you could do to counteract that. So instead, as long as your energy shield's fairly full, your vision won't dissipate. I like to grab these nodes mainly because they give you a lot of energy shield, and each one gives about the same as these nodes over here, but you get armor on top of it too, so there's just really like value. There's a lot of value in these nodes, and same with these. And at the end, there's always this crazy node that gives 20% armor, 16% energy shield, and then 8 tower resist, and another one up here. So those two are really crazy. Other than that, I mean, you're free to try different things on this build. If you want to focus more on like Syrian Bond, you could try going Ancestral Bond. It's really close to the tree, so it's an option. But as far as like MF, I'll just show you what's going on with the character. And like I said before, detonate dead. You want to make sure that doesn't level. All the support gems with it you can level. I have detonate dead with elemental prolife, chance to ignite, and then item rarity. And then the Syrian Bond I only have with increased burning damage and Syrian Bond. There's actually not a lot of supports that actually increase Syrian Bond's damage, but because Syrian Bond has such a high base damage, that's how you get a lot of your damage. The best scepter you can get is a scepter with increased elemental damage, and then make sure it's like a 20% one. I know I'm only using a 10% one. And then right now the biggest reason I'm using this is for groups. Otherwise I'd go for one that has 2 to fire skill gems before anything else. And then this build doesn't really care about spell damage. You can stay away from spell damage. Only grab fire damage and elemental damage, and then cast speed. That's the only important parts. Spell damage does nothing for this, because spell damage would only scale the physical damage off of Detonate Dead. It wouldn't actually scale the 18% of the monster's life. Fire damage actually does scale that, so does elemental damage, so it's something to keep in mind. Same thing with this. This does not scale off of spell damage. It scales off of fire damage and elemental damage. It does do fire damage, so yeah, another thing to keep in mind. I usually run a cast on damage taken and a molten shell over here, and then it also casts flame ability. I didn't have that in there last night, and then I just have a couple pieces that have my auras going. So this is my blood magic, clarity, vitality, reduced mana. So that's how I get my life really low. I'll put those on for you really quick. And then see, now we're already at low life. We're already, because if you take and heal up, see. So that's how I get to low life, to apply the wonder traps. And that's a lot of free rarity for little investment. And then we have reduced mana, grace, and discipline. And grace is how we get a lot of armor. Since we grabbed iron reflexes, that's how we get a ton of armor. And that's what lets you run through everything in Val. And then the other thing is, where is it? We also always have discipline up, because right now we only have 2300 energy shield. Discipline gives you another 800, because we grabbed a decent amount of energy shield nodes. So with everything in place, there's actually a lot of things you can do to upgrade this character. I didn't do those things. Like, my helmet is kind of okay. My shield is pretty decent. Like, my shield's probably the only thing that's halfway expensive on here. And same with the Solaris Silkera. Like, these two are the only thing that's sort of expensive. And the shield's probably not even expensive anymore. You can probably get it for really cheap now. But when I got it, it was a little more expensive. This is probably always going to be at 10 chaos, because there are some builds that use it. I'm not entirely sure what those builds are. I didn't look them up or anything. But I knew I could scale shields just as well as other shields in a different way. So I wanted to try that out. And it actually seems like it's pretty effective. If you want to get a lot of energy shield, you could try going just a flat energy shield. Or if you want a lot more armor, I would maybe even think about trying to see if you can get a really high evasion energy shield. I'm not entirely sure how well that would work, but the reason why I want something like this is because I eventually do want like an Archon kite shield, so I can get 12% all resist on my implicit. But yeah, and then the stats you're looking for on your shield is you want flat int, because the int is actually almost more percentage to your energy shield. That's why I try to get int on a lot of my gear, if at least the pieces that I can use it. I also have this to make up for dex that I needed for grace. You can use other options. Since I didn't need a lot of resist, this actually worked pretty well. I actually probably should blessed the roll on the top, the 16 to dex and int, because it's the lowest you can get, or almost the lowest. I believe it is the lowest though. And then I just have a double rarity ring here with some fire damage on it, which is pretty good for this build. And since you don't have to worry about resist as much, like, it lets you put on a lot of things that normally it doesn't have a lot of resist on it, or you could even stack. You could stack chaos resist, which is really nice. Like, this shield has chaos resist on it. I didn't do that. I think I'm still kind of overcapped. See, yeah, I'm super overcapped on lightning, so I could get rid of some lightning. And I actually don't even need this amulet anymore. So, but I mean, for leveling I did. That's why I grabbed it. And I mean, it's still good for some things. Like, it still does give a lot of int. And it also gives the 16% maximum energy shield. So, but now since I don't need it as much, I'll probably end up cycling it out for a rarity amulet. Get more rarity, but when everything's said and done, you should have 187 rarity. And that, I mean, like I said, the only pieces I have that is the wonder traps, this ring, and the helmet. And that's what's giving me rarity. And then after that, you also use 2 rarity gems, one in your Detonate Dead, one in your Syrian Bond, just in case you end up killing stuff with your Syrian Bond. You have rarity going on there. If you kill things with your detonate dead, same thing. So it's just something to keep in mind. Other than that, that is pretty much everything I kind of have to say about this build. And like I said, it's very effective for magic finding. It's as it is now. It's decently effective in beginning maps. If you start doing higher than 69 maps, I'd probably suggest taking and getting a better helm, better shield, better amulet. You know, this isn't really going to cut it once you get higher than that. Or if you start doing rare maps, like, this isn't going to cut it. So, but, you know, just to give you an idea what you can upgrade, because there's some pieces that are kind of just locked in. Like, the boots, they're kind of locked in because they give you so much rarity. The gloves are kind of locked in because they give you a ton of rarity. You know, the chest piece, it's locked in. So, I mean, if you don't like not having a lot of options, this build isn't really about having a lot of options. And that's why I didn't like it, because I like builds that aren't constrained to their items. But yeah, it's, like I said, it's a lot to think about. If you want to run more auras, you could do that too. It's very easy. All you'd have to do is probably unspec from a couple things and try to get like this ring here. That would reduce your mana reserve. You could get these couple points here. Then, since you're already here, they're kind of good. You could run up here, grab these. You're just gonna have to sacrifice nodes other places. Like, you can get rid of these health nodes now if you really wanted to, so you'd get 4 points back here. If you didn't care about getting stunned as much. Although these probably aren't doing a whole lot as is anyway, so I could probably just get rid of those, but so that'd be 4 points there that you could use for other places. You could maybe take it out of here if you really wanted to. I mean, you'd be nerfing your damage, but you'd be better at support. Let's see here, where else can we take out points? I mean, if you feel like you don't need this, you could take it out. Or if you, I would keep this because that gives you a lot of survivability. I mean, this does too, but I mean, you know, you kind of just have to tinker around. And like I said, this character right now is actually only 71, so it's not even. I still have 9 more points before I get capped. You don't really need any skill points from the bandits. You could maybe get an extra endurance charge, but we're not even using cast on damage taken enduring cry. So I mean, yeah, I'd probably just take the skill points from all the bandits, especially since we're more of an energy shield based character. But yeah, this is the guide for the Templar, Low Life, Detonate Dead, Syrian Bond. Let me know what you think.